Hello and welcome to my review of the Spyderco Roadie. As always, I'm going to start with the specifications, then I'm going to talk about the origin of the knife and how it was conceived and all the rest of it, and then I'll go through all of the parts of the knife as I normally do. So the blade length is 5.3 centimeters, the blade thickness is 0.29 centimeters, the closed length 7.6 centimeters, and the overall length, open that is 12.9 centimeters. And the weight is 28 grams, so it is a very, very lightweight knife. So this knife, the origins, essentially, following the tragic events of September the 11th, 2001, if you're not aware of that, you should be. Essentially, the carry of any knife on board an aeroplane was strictly prohibited. However, in early 2013, the TSA, otherwise known as the Transportation Security Administration, announced a plan to change the US security regulations and thus once again allowing knives on planes. However, the plan was later withdrawn, but Spyderco had already risen to this occasion and they'd already designed a functional non-locking pocket knife to conform to the TSA's proposed guidelines. And this is it, this is the Roadie. It's a highly evolved penknife that's more practical and user-friendly than all of its historical predecessors. I don't know why they say that, but they do. And its most distinguishing characteristic is the double dent. You might see this on the website, you might have heard other people talk about it, but it's the double dent, which is this thing here, and all it is just a concave piece of the blade that's been chipped out. It's instead of your nail nick on more of the traditional knives. So instead of a nail nick there to open it, you've obviously got a bit of texture of which you can just pull and open the blade. I do apologise about that. The fluff behind the knife just was making the camera go all funny, so and out of focus, so I'm just going to use this backdrop instead, which it seems like it works best on. Moving on from what I was saying, traditional pen knives, it uses this subtle index finger choil that increases the control of the knife and acts as a safeguard against unintentional closure. Although they kind of designed this knife for the TSA, they said it was too good to pass up, and they thought they'd make a knife anyway. I'll go through all of my talking points that I normally do. That will give you more of an insight into this knife. So the handle scale is the FRN, it's black, and it has this Spyderco logo. It looks cool, but it doesn't really offer much purchase at all. It's alright, I suppose, but it's no Delica in terms of the friction that you can get or the purchase you can get. It's got this long back spacer. I think it's just normal stainless steel. I don't think it is same steel as the blade itself. I'd normally talk about the pocket clip here. There is none, but there is a hole to put, I don't know, string or whatever. I don't think you can fit 550 through there. It's flanked by these two inserts, which I assume hold the rest of the scales to the back spacer maybe. It's also got a kind of pivot screw there, Torx. So no pocket clip. I don't know whether you need one. I've carried it all week and I haven't necessarily missed a pocket clip. Sometimes it's a good thing because it's more kind of concealed carry. I mean, it's a tiny little knife, but you see where I'm coming from. You don't have like a pocket clip sticking out of your pocket. Ergonomics, it's actually quite comfortable despite it being small. I've got large hands and it's not too small for my large hands. I do very much like the jimping on the top and the finger choil. I think the finger choil is great. It does give you that extra bit of fine work and detail to any kind of knife work that you want to do. Also it adds that kind of safety feature, although it's a very strong kind of back lock anyway. It's stronger than the UK PKs that I have, and actually it's probably not as strong as the Spyderco, but it is quite a strong retention for the blade there. And moving on to the blade, you can see here that the steel is the Spyderco, the N690C steel, which I believe comes from the mountains in Austria, although this whole knife is made in Maniago, Italy, which isn't that far away, I suppose. And it's got Salglass's logo, so that means he designed this knife. It's got the trademark Spyderco hole there, which of course isn't functional, it's just for aesthetics, and it does get in the way if you're cutting, say, flesh. If you're cutting food or whatnot, that might get clogged up, but no more so than any other Spyderco that has a, you know, trademark hole. So I don't know whether that's a point or not, but it is for me. If you're cutting something thick, you know, it might get stuck in there. The shape of the blade is a sheep's foot, because it's got a curve, which means it's great for, I suppose, seat belts, anything where you don't want a point, which is good. So it's quite a functional blade shape. It's got this curve on it too, rather than just complete line. And another point to mention is that if you can see the angle of that, it's a very acute angle that it goes to, and it tapers off, whereas the start and the spine, if you can see that, is quite thick. You get my point there, that it's thick on the top, and it tapers off towards the cutting edge. The weight, I think I mentioned before that it is 28 grams, which is nothing really when you think about it. I mean, I know that the UK PK is about 40 grams, so it weighs less. I'd like to know how much weight could be shaved off if they removed even more of that backspacer, but as it stands, it's one of the lightest Spydercos out there. So if that's an important feature for you. And the blade steel is so good. You hear so many knife reviewers and just knife people say how good N690 is. It is a very, very decent steel, and I do prefer it to S30V. Although S30V is harder, this, it doesn't like snap, and it's not as brittle as S30, and it's easier to sharpen, and the corrosion resistance is incredible. So to have that steel on such a small knife is just fantastic. It really is. So this is kind of like the ultimate backup blade. If you've got a primary and this is just in your bag somewhere or on your person, this will get the job done too because of that steel. Sociability of this knife, how sheeple friendly is it? Is this the most sheeple friendly knife that Spyderco have produced? It's very high up there. At the moment, I'd probably say it is. I've taken this knife out many times in public, and I've had one raised eyebrow, if that, but that's literally because I've, you know, deployed it quite quickly, and so it's that event of not seeing a knife and then seeing a knife like this. It's that kind of effect that it has. But if you are quite sensible and you say, okay, I'm just gonna, you know, use my knife to cut whatever, and you deploy it like that, where they can see that it's become a knife, then it's not too much of an issue. Yeah, it's very, very sheeple friendly. It's quite cute. It's everything about it is just, it's tiny. I mean, they can see it doesn't have a lock, they can see it doesn't have serrations. I mean, it's quite a people friendly knife. Is it more people friendly than the Squeak? This has given me motivation to do a knife friendly, people friendly video at some point of the most sheeple friendly knives, people friendly knives out there. So stay tuned for that. The Squeak is quite people friendly, but it's still quite a big knife. It's still quite a big piece of steel. I think this is more people friendly, just because of the blade shape too. It's the pointy, you see, it's the point. That's the point, in that, you know, the point isn't, well, there isn't really a point, so they just see the curve and they think, oh right, okay, it's just like a you know, utility knife or something like that. And I think that's one of the things that makes this knife people friendly. So ergonomics, great, got the jimping, it's quite people friendly, it's got good back spring, and it's quite functional in the office or wherever really. It's a great functional knife. So I'm going to do some size comparisons of where it sits. So is it longer than a Squeak? They're a very similar overall length actually, and the blade length is ever so slightly longer on the Squeak, but it's more curved on the Squeak, put it that way. The Pingo is of course longer still, and then you've got the Spyderco, and then you've got the UK PK, which I'll just put there for reasons. Being the largest in that set, the UK PK, and our UK knife laws being what they are, you've really, you've got a choice here. You can choose to carry either, or both, or whatever. Non-locking, under 3 inches, these are both excellent options. A versus video, yeah, I'm definitely going to do a versus video, but what I will say in preparation for that is what you gain in functionality in terms of the large grip, pocket clip, the point, you lose in people friendliness. This is a lot more people friendly, but you do lose out. So it's form over function, really, in a way. They'll both function well as knives, but you're going to have a lot less with this Roadie than you are with the UK PK. Yeah, so it really depends on whether you want to have a knife that's more functional in a way, or a knife that's more people friendly. More on that in another video. If you've got the money to spend, now bearing in mind, I'm gonna talk about the price now, because it's a very important issue. This is running at about £53 in the UK. I've seen it on, for instance, Blade HQ for about $50. $40, something like that. So yeah, we are getting screwed over again, obviously, but it's not. So in America, it's not that expensive, but here, when you've got the choice between this Roadie and this Spyderco, and they are both legal, legal to carry without a good reason, you really want to be looking at something that you get more for your money. So you get a bigger handle, scale, you get more steel, a longer blade, cutting edge length that still is legal, considering that the Roadie, its main job was to fulfill the TSA kind of regulations. Because there aren't any regulations anymore, it's a bit of a redundant kind of knife when, for the same price you can get something obviously bigger and a bit more easier to use. But it depends whether you don't want a larger knife with a pointy end, whether you want a more people friendly, but it depends on what kind of environment you're in. But in terms of actual value for money, I'd go for the Spyderco, because yeah, you just get more. And then considering that the UK PK is about £10 cheaper than the Roadie and can be deployed with one hand, is just, there's a lot of choice out there. So you really need to be direct as to what kind of purpose this knife will fulfill. I hope that size comparison has helped you. So my final thoughts on this knife is it's a very pricey knife that doesn't really fulfill the function it set out to on its conception. However, for like a knife collector like myself, it's a great little addition, and it just gives you more choice in an urban or office environment as to which knife you want to carry. The blade steel is fantastic, the ergonomics and the build quality are as to be expected. It's just quite expensive for what you actually get. Is it a necessity? I wouldn't think so. Would I recommend this knife? Yeah, I would, but probably for about £10 or £15 cheaper than it currently is, considering what else is on offer at the moment. Is it a very good knife? Yeah, it's a great knife, and I've used it, and I'm happy to use it more often in more sociable kind of settings. It's not really an offensive kind of tool. So that's it for my review. Thank you ever so much for watching. If you haven't already, please do comment, rate and subscribe, and take care.